now into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this. Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
May I present to you the cat?
I am the dog.
I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And no Caleb today.
Wah, wah.
It's all right. We didn't need him. His event was last week, so we don't need him.
He doesn't care about Google or Microsoft or any of that stuff.
But you know what he does care about? Names that tech companies give. And boy, we got a big one coming.
That's true.
But I'm sure we'll get his inputs on it. But events, man, we had two of them.
Yeah.
Two events that happened. So there's a bit to talk about. So tell you what, let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to first talk about the Google I/O event that we hinted at last week. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that first. Landon?
Yes.
What do you want to talk about on this?
Oh, I mean, all I really need to say is AI. That's what Google talked about.
Yeah.
For way too long. This keynote was 1 hour and 52 minutes long. Listener,
man.
I haven't even watched the whole thing yet, and I sped it up on YouTube. You can do that when you're watching a video. You can speed it up. I watched it at 1.5, and I watched it periodically, like bits and pieces throughout the week. I haven't finished it yet. It's just so much. So,
Jeez.
it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, you could have taken what ChatGPT did the day before that we talked about already. Their little event that was about 30 minutes. And they talked about most of the same stuff. But Google spread it out to 1 hour and 52 minutes.
They're just really excited.
There's something.
About it over and over.
I mean, oh, geez. I mean, it's funny because, like, a lot of this stuff they've talked about in the past. Like, even last year's I/O keynote was a lot of AI stuff. And a lot of the stuff they're talking about now is a lot of the same stuff. Just they're doing it better than they were last year.
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, what was the counter at the very end of talking about AI? You said 120 times they said it?
Yeah, Google had a little AI counter going, and then they put it up on screen at the very end of the keynote, and it was at 120, and then they said it again, and it went 121. But then they also, before they walked off stage, did say it again. So 122 times they said the word AI. But I had to look it up. Me and Wes were talking before the podcast, and I was curious to how many times they said Gemini, because Gemini is their AI-powered thing. And they said that one 170 times, which is a lot.
It's a lot. How many per minute we said it was?
This website says, AndroidAuthority.com, they said a rate of 1.5 times per minute. So more than once a minute, they were saying Gemini, which is crazy. And it's like this article gives a lot of other words that they said throughout the keynote, which was interesting. So, like I said, Gemini was 170, AI 122, search, the whole bread and butter of Google is search. They said 87 times. Google, the name of the company, 68 times. And then Android, the thing that, is kind of important to Google, I think. They said 21 times is all, which is interesting. So
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, it's fun. Google I/O. It's a fun one.
Well, other than saying those keywords, what else did they talk about?
Yeah, so let's talk about stuff that actually is going to pertain to you, listener. If you are curious to know, like, how can you use the stuff that they actually mentioned? Well, Some of the stuff that talked about, one of the important things, I guess I should say, that will actually affect, could potentially affect you and stuff that you might actually use eventually. Because a lot of this stuff is coming later this year or coming at a soon to be updated date. Who knows? Maybe some of this stuff may never come. I mentioned that because the ability to remove a fence from a photo that they did a few years ago, that's technically not still available because, you can do magic eraser. It's kind of the same thing, but it's a little different. So, some of the stuff they talked about that I think is actually pretty cool is one of which is called Project Astra. It's using AI in a video form. So the way it works is they showed it off with someone on their phone going throughout a room talking to Gemini using video. And they were going through their office and stuff, and then they're asking what certain things are and how things work. And then, as they're going through the room, they ask Gemini, "Oh, where did I put my glasses?" And Gemini knew, "Oh, it's over here on your it's in this location on your desk." Sure enough, that's where the glasses were because they had panned over that with their camera at one point. They picked up the glasses, which ended up being some form of smart glasses that had a camera on them. So it switched over to Project Astra on the glasses, which was pretty cool. And then they were able to go over to this whiteboard and do some different things. And it was actually pretty interesting. And it's funny because I mentioned this to Wes before we started recording. Google Glass was about 10 years too early, I think. Because
yeah.
If they were to announce Google Glass right now, they would probably sell really well. And if they even kept it in the exact same form that it was 10 years ago, they would probably sell.
Yeah.
Because you combine Google Glass with the AI stuff that they're doing right now, those are a great product. So this Project Astra, I think, is it. They didn't really give a date on this one, I don't think. They just said coming in the future sometime. So who knows if it'll actually launch with anything. But I do like the idea of what it can do. Another one was Ask Photos. Now, this is something that anybody that uses Google Photos will be able to do in the future. Basically, right now, you can search within Google Photos, and it does a pretty good job of finding what you want. So say you want to search for a picture of you doing a certain thing. You could say, take a picture or find a picture of me when I went bowling. And you can just search for either bowling or you and bowling, and it'll usually find a picture of you either at a bowling alley or you bowling or, more or less what you were looking for. But now you can be a little more specific. You can actually just ask with your voice if you want to, but also type it in and use Gemini. So the example that Google used was if you need to look for, you want to know what your license plate number is. They said, "What's my license plate number?" And it can know, okay, instead of beforehand, it would probably show you, you could search for license plate and it would give you pictures of cars and stuff because it knows a license plate goes on a car, but it may not know what your car is. This can, in theory, have an idea of what car is yours because of how pictures are and how many of it is. And it can just go through the photos. If it has a picture of your license plate, instead of just showing you the picture, it can tell you what the license plate number is. You can also click to go through and find the picture that it's going for or getting the information from. So you can verify that is your license plate number, because I wouldn't fully 100% trust that it's giving you the exact right number. But if there is a photo there, you could just click through and go to it, and then you can verify right there. Oh, that is the license plate that I need. Okay, perfect. Which it was pretty cool. The other one that they gave was they were show me pictures of my daughter swimming or my daughter's progress learning how to swim. And so it knew who, in Google Photos, you can assign different faces to different people. So if you've done that, you could do this where what it did is it showed pictures of his daughter learning how to swim, and then as she was older, getting better at swimming, and it made a little, not slideshow, but it just showed all the photos in correct order of her learning how to swim, and then as she got better, it was really cool. So, that type of thing, I think, will be really cool for pretty much anybody that uses Google Photos in the future.
Yeah, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that because I use Google Photos. I do search for things on a fairly regular basis. I've got a lot of photos from many years inside of there. So
Yeah.
I don't always know. I know what photo I'm looking for. I don't know when it was taken most of the time. I usually have an idea of what time of year it was. I don't know what year or what month. So being able to do something like this will be a really beneficial thing, I think.
I agree. I agree with that. That'd be kind of cool. Be like certain key points to search for.
Yeah, and being able to just even search just the more specifically for things, I think will be really nice. One really cool feature that they showed off they said is coming to Android. This is a part of Gemini that'll work inside of the OS on Android, is spam detection during phone calls. So right now, Google does a pretty good job of if you have a phone call coming in and they suspect that it might be a spam call, it either won't ring at all, it won't ring through your phone, or it'll just give you an alert as it's ringing when you look at it before you answer. This might be a spam phone call, which is really nice. And I use that a ton when I had a Pixel phone. It does work on iOS in a different way, but it is a really nice feature. But the way that this worked is you have to turn this on. This is not on by default, and I'm glad for that because it's kind of listening for certain keywords on your phone call, so you may not want this to be on it's doing it all on device, so it's not like it's sending your phone calls to the cloud for someone else to potentially listen to. It's doing this all on device. But the way it works is while you're talking is it will listen to certain keywords, and the example they gave was somebody saying, "I'm from your bank." So, like there's weird account stuff going on right now. We want to move all of your account or all of your money to a different account to secure it before we do stuff, which a bank is never going to do that.
Nope.
So
No.
it popped up on the screen and says banks will never ask you to move your money to keep it safe. And then it says likely scam. And then it offers, do you want to end the call? So that's actually really cool because there are sadly a lot of people that do fall for these scam phone calls that just either don't know any better or are just really trusting or different things like that. Usually, I hate to say this, but it's usually older people that fall for these type of things. Sometimes the younger generations do as well, but it's generally older people that get tricked into these type of phone calls, and they lose a lot of money this way. So the ability for it to just pop up and say, hey, by the way, this is not something that usually happens when, and it will tell you, this is likely a scam. Do you want to end the call? And you can just click end call and then it's done. I absolutely love this feature.
Yes. Yes, that's a good one.
So when this happens or when this becomes available, you might want to inform people that you think might fall for these type of things. Let them know that this is available as long as they have an Android phone, most likely a Pixel at first. But you might want to inform them, you might want to turn this on your phone because this is a really cool feature. Might save you a lot of heartache down the road.
Yeah. I do love the features they do have on there that you were talking about on the Pixel.
Yeah.
The spam caller, the thing, so great.
It is so nice. Like I got so many fewer phone calls on my phone because it just it just didn't ring through. It was great. I loved it. All right. The next one I think that will actually be beneficial for some people is Ask with Video. So inside of Gemini, like they talked a lot about Circle to Search, which is available right now on most Pixel phones. Like inside of any app, you can just circle something and then search for that thing, and it works pretty well. But this video one is you can do something similar like that, but with video. So you can either add a video, like while you're watching a YouTube video or some other video, you can open up Google Gemini and then ask it something pertaining to that video, and it will give you some answers. Or you can just open your phone's camera and do the same thing, kind of like the Project Astra, but a little bit differently. But the one demo that they showed off at the keynote was, it kind of works similar to how Google Lens works right now, but instead of photos, it's video. So they had a record player on a stand on stage, and the tone arm, as it was called, the part that the needle is on that you put onto the record, it would not stay in place. It would just, you'd put it in where you wanted it, it would just go back to resting position off the record. It's like, that is not how this is supposed to work. So the person is like, if you have a record, if you have this scenario, you don't necessarily know what each individual part of the thing is called. Like, I didn't know it was called a tone arm, but that's what it was called. So they just opened their phone, turned on Gemini, and they pointed at they showed what was going on, and they said, why isn't this working? That's all they really said. Just, why isn't this working? Gemini was able to take context from the video, know what record it was, or what record player it was, and then give a suggestion, well, this might be the issue, and then it gave some different websites where you could go to that gave a little more information on how to either fix it or where you could get replacement parts or stuff like things like that. Really cool little feature. Now, that's just assuming that it gets all that information correctly. Again, this is the way where we're at with AI right now. It doesn't always get everything 100%. It doesn't always get everything 90%. It's on the relatively low side of accuracy on certain things. So it may not always be correct, but it is a pretty cool feature. Another, I don't know, this wasn't shown off at the keynote that I remember, but another one was like a video camera, a film. Was it a video camera or just a film camera? I can't remember. Something wasn't working quite right, and it did suggest opening the film, like taking the film out of the camera. It's like, no, you don't want to do that because that ruins your film. If you expose the film to sunlight, it's gone. All your photos in that roll, done. So, again, doesn't always give the best advice, but it does, at least in these examples, link out to different places, websites that will give you other advice on how to potentially fix things. Or you can just go click through to give a Google search result for it instead of using the Gemini option. So, pretty cool little feature.
That is cool.
This other feature that I think is pretty cool, it's not one that most people will use. It's a accessibility type feature, but it's called Talkback. The way this works is if you are visually impaired and you can't see your screen quite as well, like you're not necessarily fully blind. Even, I guess, for blind people, they've been using something kind of like this anyways. But it just is able to visually tell you what's on the screen, give you more details about what's there, and I thought it was pretty cool. The example they were showing was, like this article says, perhaps you're shopping for a new outfit. You may not be able to see the finer details of the whole photo or image, and far too many sites do not properly tag images with. That's one thing. People, if they upload a photo, can tag that photo with certain things that when you have this accessibility feature turned on, it will just read what's tagged on it, but that doesn't always happen. So the Gemini AI can look at the photo and just tell you what it's looking at in more detail than what you might have been able to have beforehand. So that's pretty cool.
That is actually really cool.
Yeah. Another big thing that they talked about was just circle the search. That's, like I said, it is available, but they were just making it so it's currently on the Galaxy S24 and the Pixel 8, I believe. But they did say it will be coming to more Android devices later on. Let's see. Another thing they talked about here that is already out and available for people using Google. If you just use Google, you may have already seen this. It's called AI Overviews. So if you search for something, if you have a question about something, it'll just automatically pop up with these overview things right at the very top of the search. You may not even see just your regular Google search results. If you're on a phone, it'll just show the AI overview, and it'll give certain information, but you can also just scroll down and then go to your regular Google search results if you want.
Yeah.
But it does give this little overview of certain things, and it's interesting. I don't know exactly. The problem I have with this, and I mean, it's not really going to affect me at all, but for all the websites that people, generally write articles on, like how-to articles or lists articles, different things like that, it's going to be taking from these articles and putting the overview right on there. And initially, I don't know, I haven't looked at it enough. Like previously, AI would generally give a source article or something that they're getting their information from. I didn't see that quite as easily on these AI overviews. So I don't love that because a lot of people could be, it's like, well, if AI is going to be doing my job for me, why am I going to write these articles? Which makes it so AI doesn't have information to draw from. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation, but should be interesting to see how it works and how people, utilize AI overviews. So it was pretty interesting. They did also mention that Gemini is basically replacing Google Assistant inside of everything on Android. So, I mean, it's going to be taking the stuff that Assistant could do beforehand and putting it into Gemini. They're kind of combining the two forces to make one more supposedly beneficial, useful assistant. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. But as long as it does all the stuff that Assistant could do beforehand, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, there you go. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
They did announce Gemini 1.5 Pro, and it is available globally as of the keynote. But in order to get 1.5 Pro, you have to be a Google One subscriber at a specific tier. I don't remember. I think it's the $10 a month tier. So it's not the low end. Like I'm using Google One, but I'm on the base tier where I'm not getting a ton of storage and whatnot. I can't use I can't use Gemini 1.5. Basically, it's just supposed to be faster and have more, like, be able to use more context and different things like that of what already is there. And so that's something that if you are on a higher tier of a Google One plan, then you'll be able to use that Gemini 1.5 Pro.
Interesting.
They talked about some new AI-powered creation tools that are basically supposed to help compete against what OpenAI is doing with ChatGPT and stuff like that. They talked about some generative photo stuff called the thing they called their generative photo was Imagen. So it's image, Imagen, Imagen.
Imagen. Yep.
I thought that might have to go into the tech names thing.
I don't know why, but it reminds me of Engine from Jurassic Park. I don't know why.
Honestly, I thought the same thing.
Did you really? Okay, I'm not alone.
Same
Fair enough.
thing. So
IMG and Engine.
Yeah. So you're not the only one that thought that. I'm sure there was more people that did. They did mention how they've made it so it's a lot better at making generative photos. Basically it's doing better. Like the biggest thing they mentioned was text. So if you have ever tried using GPT or any of these other generative AI things to make a photo, if you wanted to say something specifically, it generally does not produce the text that you're looking for correctly. In my experience, it never has. So they were showcasing things and it actually was giving you text that you put in. Like if you say you want a sign that says this, it said what you wanted it to say. So
yeah.
I think for certain things, that's going to be a better thing. I wouldn't use this like as a logo creator by any means, but it could give you a good template type or a good, step in the right direction. Then you can take that and tweak it and make it your own. But the fact that it actually is making text correctly. That's pretty nice. Another one that they announced was called Music AI Sandbox. So this is basically a music generation or music generator type thing. And they had a DJ at the event that was there beforehand, before the keynote went off, using this to make different music. I can't remember the DJ's name. It's not anybody I was familiar with, but it was interesting. Basically, it kind of works similar to what Apple announced at their iPad announcement, with it'll just kind of give you different beats or different things that you want to add to your music and whatnot, and you can tweak it how you want. It was kind of cool.
That's interesting. You say that I do Microsoft Rewards, and they've been trying to get me to make music with Copilot. This same idea, and so I'm like, oh, apparently this is oh no, they've got to do it, or they did it, so now we got to do it.
Pretty much.
Gotcha. So that makes a little more sense why that happened.
Yeah. And then they also announced a new video generator AI thing called VO, or VEO is what it is. And they actually had a little thing. They collaborated with Donald Glover, the actor, and then a couple directors and stuff. They're going to release whatever video these people are working on later on, but they showed a little behind the scenes of stuff, and they're working on some sort of video generation with these creators. And so we'll see how it actually plays out. But some of the things they were showing was very similar to what you can get from GPT and these other AI generator companies. But it's right now, I think the biggest thing that when it comes to video creation is more of like a B-roll type background, video. It's nothing. It's not going to give you anything specific. You're not going to be able to really generate people that well in video, which you can't right now anyways. But so it was interesting. It'll be interesting to see what this video they come out with these creators they partnered with, to see how well it actually works. So I'm curious on that. But it did look, it's probably one of, if not the best video generators right now out there for AI, but it's pretty interesting. They did say these tools right now are still only for select creators through its Google Labs program. So like if you I've got Google Labs set up on mine, but I don't have access to this stuff. They're allowing it to very specific people at the moment, but it will come at some future date, I'm sure, just like everything, because
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, another thing that they announced, the way they announced this was really strange. So the person that was on stage, she is talking about Gemini and stuff, and then she goes on to say, but I've been using Gemini in a way that you aren't using Gemini. I'm like, well, duh, you work at Google. Of course you're using it in a way that I'm not using Gemini. But she mentioned how they have these things called gems, which, again,
oh boy,
fun. It's not the worst name. It's just an interesting. It actually kind of makes sense. So gems are basically a chat bot, more or less, that you can specifically make to do certain things. So you can make your own gems to be more. Let's see. So the example that they gave was they named. I can't remember what they named this gem. You can give it a specific name too. But this one, it says, is a cliffhanger curator. They said the instructions on this gem was, I'd like you to act as a storyteller who specializes in crafting short stories with mysterious twists. Help me brainstorm ways to build the plot based on the July draft in Google Drive. So it can work inside a Google Workspace as well. But provide constructive feedback as well as suggestions on ways to keep readers entertained. So this specific gem was made to do a very specific job, and you can set up multiple gems to do different things. So it's a cool implementation. again, the name kind of makes sense because it's kind of you're narrowing it down to a small version of what Gemini can do, just
Right.
more specific to a specific job.
Interesting.
So I don't hate that idea. I don't know exactly that, I don't know how I would use it or how most people would use it. It's more of a thing like if you use Google Workspace on a fairly regular basis, like in your job, you're using docs and sheets and all these things, and you're constantly creating and working with multiple people to do different things. That's where I think these gems can come in handy, because you can be like, hey, take all this information and do this specific job with this information, and then you can go over and give it, human eyes to look over it and make sure it actually did what you want it to do, and then tweak it how to make it more specific if you need to.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
That is kind of a cool thing. I think that would be kind of a fun. Now, obviously, I come from realm of games or something, but even like for board games and storytelling in a board game for Dungeons and Dragons or something like that would be kind of
Yeah.
an interesting thing.
You could create a
like
gem
that.
to be your dungeon master.
I don't know how far it'd go, but I mean, even to be like, hey, I need you to come up with this type of villain,
Right.
and I need more expansive things of what he would actually do versus, maybe make it that. I don't know. That see that. I guess that's where my mind went with it. So that'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what people do with these very specifically trained chatbots, because it could be really cool. It could be a total flop. Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention this inside of Circle to Search. So Circle to Search can now, it's not going to do your homework, but it can do your homework for you. So the way it actually worked, I think, was really cool. So it showcased this math problem somebody had, and you just circle the math problem, and instead of just giving you the answer, it actually pulled up a thing of how to solve this equation. So it is kind of teaching you and helping you figure out what the answer is based on what's there. So I did like that it didn't just give you the answer straight away. I'm sure you could ask it to just give you the answer if you really wanted to. But I love the fact that you circle it, and it, at least at the moment by default, shows you how to solve the answer. It gives you the step-by-step directions on how to do that. Really cool. I could use that with my children who are in elementary school, and because, it's years later, of course they change how they do math because, why? Oh, it's so stupid.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, math
I'm
is
right there with you.
I mean, every generation complains about this. Why do they have to change the way they do math every 10 years? It's so dumb. But anyways, moving on. Some of the stuff they talked about a little more going on to the Gemini inside of Android. It can basically, you can access Gemini from anywhere inside of Android, and it will be able to help you with different things. So similar to how you could access Google Assistant from anywhere, this one actually will, you can use it to search for things, but you can also ask it questions about what's on your screen if you wanted to. So it can use context of what you're doing on your screen. The example they gave was this guy was watching pickleball in how to play pickleball video. And then he just opened up Gemini and was like, can you give me a summary of this video? So he didn't have to watch the whole thing, but Gemini could take that video in just right on the screen that he was at and give him a step-by-step summary of what the basic rules for pickleball were. I thought that was kind of cool. And you can...
That is cool.
Another thing that he had, he did was he went to this website that gave him a PDF of all the rules for, the official pickleball rules. And he just opened up Gemini and said, can you give me a summary of this PDF? And it was an 80-page pickleball rulebook. And he didn't give a summary. He asked for a very specific rule. He's like, can I do this inside of pickleball? And then it pulled up and said, no, you can't do that on pickleball, or it's against the rules. And it gave him the rule, what paragraph and all that stuff in the PDF it was at. And then he could just click through and go to it. And that was pretty cool. So it basically makes it a lot easier to search for things inside of what you're already looking at.
Yeah, I like that.
So that, I mean, there was obviously a lot more stuff that they talked about at Google I/O, but a lot of it was more developer focused and things like that. So, I mean, if you want to know about that stuff, you probably already do because you're not getting it from us because you know that.
Yeah.
We're not developers. I mean, I could have paid more attention to that, but man, it was rough. But yeah, Google I/O this year, it was good. I do like a lot of the stuff that they are doing with AI because one thing I like with how Google explains certain things is they do show how the average person could utilize this inside of products that they're already using. Like, 'cause that's the thing, like with GPT or different AI generators and whatnot, it's like you have to go outside of your normal use case to use these this AI and stuff. Whereas the Google stuff, it's just kind of built into a lot of the stuff that you might already be using, like Google Docs and Google Sheets and Gmail and all Google Search, you know, things that a lot of people do use. So I like that aspect of what they're doing, and then all the cool stuff that's coming inside of Android is really cool. Like just some of the stuff that they're just adding that's going to be Android specific is making me think, you know, okay, do I want to switch back to an Android phone this year? Maybe. We'll have to see what Apple does with AI at WWDC coming to iPhone later this year. So it'll be interesting to see what the companies are doing. But I like most of the stuff that Google is doing with I/O. But again, all of this stuff is, as they said, coming in the future. So we'll have to see what actually does ship out to customers. And honestly, I think most of this stuff, when they say coming later this year, means, oh, it will be coming with the Pixel 9. So
yeah, yep. Which might be my next phone. I always skip a year.
Yeah.
So
I mean, some of it might be Pixel 9 exclusive for a little while. Some of it might only be Pixel 9 exclusive based on how it runs on a specific chip, you know. But obviously we'll have to wait and see. So that's Google I/O 2024. I did it. I mean, it took me a while to explain certain things, but I definitely did it a whole lot faster than they did.
Yeah. They definitely wanted to hit home with something for an hour and some minutes.
Oh, so long.
Oh, well, listener, if you need a break, I would suggest standing and stretching if you need, because we have another event we need to get through. Pause this for a second, grab a drink. I know I have mine right next to me, so. Oh, you ready for this one? Microsoft. They have an event. They had an event today. Names. Okay, let's get into this. So the first thing that they really wanted to just hit home with this event, yes, there was some new hardware, but the main purpose of the hardware was to promote Copilot Plus PCs. You heard me right. That is the name. Copilot Plus PCs.
Well, it's Copilot Plus, but you have to have a specific hardware inside of a PC to get Copilot Plus. Right?
Right. So they're calling it Copilot Plus PC. Yep. It is a certain type of NPU that they've added, and it's a. Well, why don't we kind of get into this? So I'm going to pull this up here from Thurrott.com, an article here that I'm going to be skimming a couple of these things off of that he was there at the event and he talked about this. Not only did Microsoft announce the Copilot PC with the Surface, they also partnered with Acer, Asus, Dell, HP, Lenovo, and Samsung to also be a part of this Copilot Plus PCs on there. So what is this? What does this make? And as Landon had said before, that it's a special chip. Correct. So basically what it is this is their chip that basically has AI to be calculated on device. Instead of sending information to the cloud and coming back, this chip, this NPU that they have added to the processor, is allowing to be stuff more local, more AI stuff local, basically, is what it is. And with this chip, I believe it is the Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite and the X Plus chip that they had announced these with on there. And boy, they also wanted to make sure you knew that it is more performative than the M3 MacBook Air. And and a lot of graphs they had, they wanted to show you how much more percentage, how much better these are. Over 58% on most cases, they wanted to point out to you. So if you are, just so you know, that's the one thing that they talked about. I was like, I think they're wanting to make a point that they're going to go against Apple. And they talked about it actually after the event. Satya Nadella had an interview, few interviews, and he was always talking about Apple, and they wanted to compete. So they want to compete with Apple on these things. So, well, let's kind of get into it a little bit more. Let's talk about we'll talk about the new Surface hardware that they announced. There was two of them, two different things that they had talked about. The first was the new Surface Pro. They were saying that this actually is 90% faster than the Surface Pro 9. And other big changes include the optional 13-inch OLED HDR 120Hz display, as well as a ProFlex keyboard that can work wirelessly and is very expensive. We'll get to that. They said so on here. They said that the highlights of the new Surface Pro include the 1440p quad HD camera with the ultra wide view that supports the Windows Studio effects, a 10.5 millimeter ultra HD rear facing camera, dual studio mics with voice focus, the speakers with Atmos. I mean, they really said that they wanted this to be the most powerful PC they've put out on there. So, and they touted that, saying that that's what it is. It's available with 16 gigabyte or 32 gigabytes of memory and up to a terabyte of storage. Microsoft has promised 14 hours of video playback and up to 10 hours of active web usage. This is a promise that they said.
I'm sure that will be tested immediately once they get these devices in people's hands.
They will, definitely. I mean, they tested it themselves. They put up the video of they had their old studio onto the left with the new Surface in the front, and then an actual MacBook Air on the right, and let them sit there and go through the same web things over and over. And obviously, it was kind of sped up video. And then first the Surface on the left died, then the MacBook died, and then the brand new one stayed alive longer. So they were pretty confident in this. So they said that this tablet starts at $999.99. And that's for the Snapdragon X Plus model with the LCD display. So that's where it starts. If you want the Snapdragon X Elite model with the OLED display, that one starts at $14.99.
Yeah.
That's quite the price for a tablet. But this is supposed to be all Copilot Plus.
Yeah. Now, I am seeing this article I'm reading says that, like, right now, the main processor are these Qualcomm chips, but they do say that Intel and AMD are working on chips that will work with this Copilot Plus PC, and that the minimum requirements are that 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of SSD storage, but it's the main thing is the integrated MPU, so it's got to have that neural processing unit that they want, and that obviously helps speed up this AI stuff. But other companies are planning on making processors for this, so you won't necessarily have to be saddled down to just these Qualcomm processors if you for some reason just hate Qualcomm. I mean, there are people that are that way. I don't know. But
it's true.
They did say that Intel and AMD will be shipping processors later this year at some point. But, I mean, they also announced a significant amount of different devices that are coming soon with these processors from other companies. If you don't like the Surface, flavor of Windows for again.
Right. That's what I was saying at the beginning with Acer, Asus, Dell, HP, Lenovo, and Samsung. Is what they were saying. They partnered with them to do that.
Yeah, and listener, I'm just going to go out and say this, and I've said this for years, but probably go that route because you're going to get the same specs, maybe a little better for cheaper in most cases.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the same. I mean, it's funny because like Google is the same thing with their Chromebooks. Like you could buy a Google Chromebook, it costs a lot of money. You can get the same Chromebook hardware wise from Samsung for a lot cheaper. So, I mean, I'm not saying the Surface ones are a bad option. They're not. They're just a high end. You're paying for the name more or less. Kind of like the same idea with Apple.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you just can't get a Mac from a different company, whereas you can get a Windows from a different company. So maybe do that.
And I think that's, if you go back, I think Microsoft and other companies have to do that if other people are wanting, for the OEM makers and other people need to be cheaper so that they could make it, So it's kind of the rule of the game. That's not an old.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's been that way. Yeah. The whole like the lifetime of Surface products, they've always been a little more on the pricier side, which is fine because I mean some people really like the aesthetic is a little bit different on Surface than it is on a Asus or an HP or Dell or whatnot.
Yeah, you're definitely paying for that name. So
yeah.
Well, let's talk about the new Surface laptop. We'll go ahead and get in there. They said on here that they redesigned it from the inside out with the 13.8-inch and 15-inch models. Now come with the razor-thin bezels and the large precision haptic touchpads. I guess that's pretty cool. I was trying to see more on the haptic touchpad, so basically it's just a little thing that allows you to, it's kind of like on your phone screen when you click it allows you to think you're clicking buttons, but it's the same idea on the touchpad basically.
Yeah. I mean that's how Apple laptops are as well. It's actually pretty cool the way it works.
These new laptops are available in 4 colors. We've got the platinum, the black, the dune, and the sapphire, which they actually don't look too bad. I thought they actually looked pretty decent for every one of them. And so I think people would be happy with that. They did say that the Surface laptop models, these new ones, are 85% or 86% faster than the previous generation, with up to 20 hours of battery life on the 13.8 version and 22 hours on the 15. So thought that was pretty cool. They can also power up to 3 external 4K monitors. They wanted to make sure you knew that.
Yeah, that is a beneficial thing, especially on a laptop because not all laptops can do that.
Yeah. They say both models come with the 120 hertz display, full HD Surface Studio camera that supports the AI-powered Windows Studio effects. The effects here that they're including, I'll mention, is the automatic framing, the portrait blur, and creative filters and voice focus. So they also talk about they have the dual mics, the voice focus, and omnisonic speakers with the Dolby Atmos. So on there, they come in with 16 gigabytes or 32 gigabytes of memory of the RAM up there, up to a terabyte of storage on the new Surface, and then talks about the ports selection. They said that both models come with 2 USB-C ports and a Surface Connect port, and a headphone jack. Through the 15-inch model has an additional USB-A port and a micro SDXC card reader. So if you're wanting to still have those, what's funny is I don't have wired headphones anymore, like at all. Like all these companies have forced me to buy wireless. It's kind of interesting.
I mean, I do have wired headphones, but I use them for what we're doing now. My studio monitor headphones are wired, but that being said, actually my computer does have a headphone jack, but I don't plug my headphones into my computer. I plug them into my mixer and then listen through it that way.
Yeah.
But, I mean, So I do, but the majority of the time, most of the headphones I've used for the last, let's say 6 or more years, heck, even longer than that, probably about 10 years, have been wireless earbuds of some sort, Bluetooth headphones. I haven't had, like, using with my phone, I haven't used wired earbuds or wired headphones for a significant amount of time. And we have Apple to thank for that, really.
That's true. Yeah. And everyone else taking that same approach.
Yeah.
Crazy to think about. Anyway, Surface Laptop 13, that starts at the $999 for the 13.8-inch model with the Snapdragon X Plus chip. The 15-inch version, this one actually is only available in the Snapdragon X Elite chip, and it starts at $1299. You can already order or pre-order these laptops, or the laptops as well as the tablets, and they arrive June 18th. So if you want to go ahead and pre-order, get these. I'm sure these are going to be out in the wild and definitely heavily tested, because especially if you got the clout to say you're a certain percentage above Apple, I'm sure people are like, well, let's see.
Yeah.
And to check them out. So, and they also talked more, obviously, about the Copilot Plus PCs. They talked about, they showed off a couple things. One I'll quickly mention. They wanted to show that I'm assuming this is going to be a part of now this is assumption just because of what they showed. They brought up video games. So I'm assuming this could also be a thing that the next Xbox hardware would be a part of, or would have this NPU. The thing they showed off was Minecraft and someone talking, saying, hey, how do I build a sword in Minecraft? And it said, open your inventory, told him how to open this inventory, and said, oh, you need certain materials. You go get these materials. Just kind of guided him through Minecraft, did that. They also brought up a picture about Sea of Thieves and how to use a compass in Sea of Thieves, how to do certain things, and it would basically guide you through the game. So with them showing that, I'm assuming that may be coming to Xbox. Obviously, PC, if you have Windows 11 and all the Copilot stuff will be there when you're playing on PCs, but that's very possible they're going to extend that out to Xboxes. So I don't know if it'll come to the ones released, but I think that next iteration of the next generation, whether it's the Series X2 or whatever it is, Series AI, Copilot Plus, PC, Xbox, whatever you want to call it.
Oh my gosh.
At this point, I know.
Copilot Plus
name.
Xbox.
Can't wait for that name.
I mean, I'd be shocked if the next version of the Xbox doesn't have some form of Copilot built into it.
I would too. I think they're really pushing for this. So I think the next Xbox or iteration of whatever Xbox is going to have it. So they did show off a couple other little features. It's funny because it's other features that other, say like Google's Gemini or Apple's stuff, that they were showing little features of AI, you click this background, the AI can take away the background from a picture. Or we just had mentioned the music thing, so they showed a couple little things here and there, but that's what that is. So, that was basically it. I mean, like I said, there was a lot more. If you want to see more of the AI capabilities or Copilot capabilities, because they said there's an update to the actual app for desktop itself. A couple capabilities there, like clicking and dragging like a picture and asking about it. They had a picture of the Northern Lights that came across, and they just clicked the picture and said, how does this happen? And just clicked it, and the AI brought it up, said, oh, this is how this happens or where it happens. So, and what was interesting, they also talked about a feature I could have swore they had just a little bit ago, killed it, and I think they just renamed it. But the way I remember this feature is called Timeline. Do you remember that feature where it's like, oh, this is a picture of all your stuff that's all together, and you could just go back in time to when you had it, like throughout.
It does sound familiar.
That was a feature. Well, they talked about that same thing, and they didn't call it Timeline. Crap, what did they call it? I
mean, Apple has some things
like Recall.
Apple has Timeline on theirs. And that may be where you're seeing it. Like, whereas the way it works on Mac OS is like, if you have a hard drive plugged into your laptop or your computer, or if you have a big enough hard drive, it'll partition some of that hard drive to use as a backup, basically. And then you can say you're working on a project, you can go in, like you save it. It doesn't just delete the previous model or previous version of whatever you're working on. You can go back in time, quote unquote, to Is that how this is?
It was similar to how they did it, but they did it cross like Edge and your browsers and everything.
Right.
Well, this, they kind of updated it to where I want to say it was called Recall. I can't remember off the top of my head. Horrible podcasting, I apologize. But basically the idea is basically the computer itself would sit there and take screenshots of what you're doing. Is basically kind of how they explained it. And it stays, and it doesn't go to the cloud. It stays, it's a part of the whole cloud compute there. But you could say like, oh, I was looking at something and there was a brown bag, or the thing was is the lady typed in brown bag and it went back through what she was looking at and said, oh, here's a brown bag. But it didn't say brown bag, but it showed a picture of it and it found it and stuff. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But I was, my whole thought process was like, wow, you're going to need a terabyte of storage just for all that backup pictures that it's taking of your.
Yeah.
But yeah, little features like that. If you wanted to kind of take a look, if you're more into more that the Copilots, the Geminis, all the AI little features, if you're more into that, you can take a look at that. Yeah, it was funny because I was asking Landon before we started recording. I was like, man, do you actually use Gemini or any AI like that for any day use or anything? And we both kind of said, like Landon was saying, he's like, not really. Like, just, I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe I should start just to kind of get more of an idea of some of this stuff that, I mean, a lot of it's cool, but I'm like, I don't know. If I need to add a date on the calendar, I don't mind typing add this date. I don't know.
I mean, I've never used like the assistant type things very much. I do think like now that this AI stuff is just being more built into stuff that I already do use, I might end up using it more. But yeah, up until this point, I've used it to make random dumb pictures, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like when it first came out and we were making a bunch of those silly pictures and seeing how, what was it? The Elmo fighting Hulk or something that one time. And yeah, it was pretty funny.
Just things like that.
But listener, if you are excited about that, I would recommend hopping in, and I'm sure there's more in-depth video of things like that you could check out. And I mean, take a look at it.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much with the hardware. I looking at this, obviously it's the new brand that they're trying to push, which is the Copilot PCs, and all the partners that they partnered with. And then obviously they wanted to make sure they had their Surface hardware to kind of push forward with it, and everyone else will kind of follow that they've partnered with these Copilot PCs. And then they've got the developer event that's coming I believe this week.
Starts tomorrow, actually. Of course, because
the build. Yeah, tomorrow.
So we'll have more to talk about next week with that.
I think, I don't know. Hopefully there's some big stuff. I kind of feel like it might be more of the same, but more expanded for developers. And yeah, I think it's going to be
because Build is their developer conference. So I did find it very interesting that they had this technically hardware event right before, but they do obviously talk some of the software. It's like, okay, you have this event the day before. Why couldn't you have combined these things? Maybe they don't want to do what Google did and have a 2-hour keynote. That
maybe that's it. They spread it out. So if there's more, obviously if there's more things to talk about that pertain to us or anything, we'll talk about it. But I mean,
they're going to announce. Here we go. This is going to be it. Instead of like a new version of Windows, like not Windows 12, it's going to be Windows Copilot.
Windows Copilot PCs.
Well,
jeez,
maybe.
We're gonna have to. Do you think we need to put that as a nomination for our worst tech name of the year?
If it happens, then it might win.
Okay, if it does, it might. I'm kind of curious to see because we'll need Caleb's input on this too, so to add it. So,
yeah.
But that was kind of it for that Microsoft event on there. The new hardware that they're pushing forward. Others will follow from the other supporting studios. Copilot Plus PCs is adding just that NPU to help with AI to be more calculated locally on your PC or device versus sending it to the cloud, then bringing it back. So
yeah, and I do like that a lot of these companies are focusing on device AI.
yeah,
I mean, obviously, if you want the little bit better version of AI, it's got to go to the cloud and stuff still at the moment.
mm-hmm.
But making it like really good, at least pretty good on device is going to be like, it's just, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that's everything on the Microsoft event we'll talk about, unless you want to say anything more.
No,
No.
nope. I'm just curious to see what more they're going to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's who knows? Probably more on this AI stuff. Obviously, I did not get a counter of how many times they said AI, but I'm curious to say how many times they said Copilot, not only Copilot Plus PC. But...
Oh, and even tomorrow is probably going to be even more than what they said today.
Oh my gosh, probably. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Just a couple quick notes on into gaming we got here. Kind of interesting. After all these studio closures, Activision forms a new studio. And if yes, but this is, I guess, a different. This is Activision and not ZeniMax. So basically, I guess the studio has been around actually, but they finally kind of let everyone know. They basically announced the creation of what's called Elsewhere Entertainment. It's a new Poland-based studio, and they said that they want this studio to be working on more narrative-based, genre-defining AAA franchises. So, what's interesting, they said that the people that they formed this with are industry veterans that have previously worked on big games such as The Last of Us, PlayStation game, Uncharted, PlayStation game, The Witcher, that's everyone, this game, Cyberpunk, Destiny, Tom Clancy's Division, and Far Cry. They said that they want to start building games, these big games with this over in Poland, with this studio. So cool.
Very neat.
Yeah. So more building studios and putting away, I guess. I don't know. Next on here, the Xbox Cloud Gaming, it now supports mouse and keyboard. Before it was just kind of more of a insider thing. They're now pushing it out to where you can now use mouse and keyboard on the cloud gaming on there. So, which is actually pretty cool now that, because being on PC and you want to do a quick cloud game, check it out before you install it. You don't have to have a controller now on most games. So.
Yeah.
So that's nice on there. So, and that's pretty much it on there. It's not going to be very much gaming news, I'm assuming, until we'll call it E3, not E3.
Yeah.
For not just Xbox, but PlayStation, Nintendo, all studios. So
a little bit of everything of that one.
Yeah, that's coming. So, stay tuned till then. So, but that's pretty much everything there. And I think we've actually come to the very end of the episode, unless Landon has one more thing.
AI. That's it.
123 count. We just said AI. You know what? You should come up with a count. We go back and look through this.
Listener, if you want to go ahead and do that, go for it. Let us know how many times we said AI in this episode. I'm not going to do it.
I'd be interested to see how many times, if we said Gemini first or more, or Copilot. That'd be interesting.
You know, I'm not going to do this, but one thing I could do is I'm editing the podcast. I could just cut out every time we said AI, Gemini, and Copilot, and that's the whole podcast. AI, Gemini, AI, Gemini, AI, Gemini, Copilot, I'm not going to do that, but I could.
No, that would be terrible. What an episode.
Listener, if you want a bonus episode of that, subscribe or go to Patreon and support us that way. Then I'll have some incentive to do that.
There you go. Oh, that's awesome. All right, dear listener. If you want to get a hold of us, you can. If you want to have any questions, you want us to say Gemini or AI or Copilot, let us know as many times as you want. You can get a hold of us on our social media platforms, as well as callingallplatforms.com. You can check out any videos that hopefully soon Caleb will upload to our YouTube channel. I feel bad. Maybe one of these days I ought to learn how to do some videos or at least put something up, and I'll just start throwing something up there.
Yeah, come on,
as
Wes.
filler. I should learn. I should do it. I probably need to get a better PC now to do that, though. Don't worry, it's uploading. It's going to take forever. But anywho, dear listener, have a good week.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.